What if your biggest obstacle toward health, toward weight loss, toward even any goal that you seek in life could end up becoming one of your greatest assets in our health space, become your greatest health asset? Do you know what that obstacle is when I say it? Can you think of it? Get it in your mind. Think about what it might be. And then we're going to move toward that thought with a very interesting story from this book. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. The subtitle of this book, The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph. Do you have a mindset to do it? Have you struggled in a space? Are you struggling in a space now, moving toward health? Do you need to unlock it? Let us walk on the journey together, both today and on the channel. Every weekday here, we are stepping forward in health. I'm Dr. Z. If you're new, nice to meet you. So good to have you here. I am an internal medicine physician, primary care doctor for many years, and then started running a weight management program, which I have transitioned over the years now full-time into a fasting-based medical practice. Help people unwind so much of the metabolic dysfunction that we are experiencing in society, in our bodies even, all right? So that's what I'm doing. Let us dive into it. So I thought this was fun. I read this book a couple years ago. It's not a weight loss book, but it is a book just about overcoming obstacles of any kind, but very applicable to our situations, right? We need to overcome obstacles. Here's the story that he tells here. I'll paraphrase it a little bit. He says, an old Zen story about a king whose people had grown soft, they said, and he was not satisfied with this. He wanted people to be stronger. He wanted to inspire them. And so he placed a large boulder in the middle of the main road heading to the city, blocking entry to the city. And then he hid nearby and he watched the responses to people. And he spent days and he was growing discouraged because people just walked up to it and they left and they went somewhere else. They did something else. But after several days, one lone peasant came along his way and he didn't turn away. Instead, he strained and strained and he tried to push it out of the way. And when he finally couldn't, he started thinking. He scrambled into the woods nearby. He found a large branch that he used for leverage, and he used the leverage to dislodge the massive rock from the road. Beneath the rock, the king had hidden a purse of gold coins and a note, which said, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget that within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition." And then he asks to frame this story. What is holding you back? So I loved that story, tiny little story, and it's, it's metaphorical, it's a story, right? But the principle that it is trying to show, hidden within difficulty is great opportunity. I was picturing as I was sitting here before we started the show, I'm trying to picture the scene, this huge boulder is like blocking the whole city. Do you ever feel like you're in a space like that in life where it's like, man, this thing, maybe you're like the peasant initially. You put your shoulder into it, you're giving it all your might, but it doesn't budge. And isn't it, don't you have compassion on someone who has in that situation, say, seems pretty insurmountable? The picture I was thinking of a weight loss path, how I'm doing this motion. This is what I've seen so many times. This is what I'm trying to help people get out of as much as anything. Cycles, trying the next thing and the next thing. And it's like we hit something for a while. It doesn't stick. It isn't sustainable. Simple fasting, what we are here on this channel, this process. I want nothing but a sustainable process for people. Take a thoughtful and gentle approach to something that can be intense like fasting, but take it in a very thoughtful space so that you can ease into it, build strength and experience in the body, so that this is a process, a tool, one of the tools in our weight loss toolkit that can serve you for a very long time. I was picturing, one of the big barriers. Tell me what your barriers are. I'm happy to hear. If you're here with me live, throw them in the comments if you're comfortable sharing. If you're here on the replay, leave a comment. Let me know, what are the barriers that you are facing? So many it could be, and if you would like a space to move toward it, we can definitely do that every day here. We are. I call this problem-solving space. No medical advice, but it's a space where we can think together about these things, and you can take these things into your life, to your medical team, things like that. One of the barriers that is common is that, say you have been trying to accomplish a goal for many years. Say, I'm going to try to lose weight, and maybe you, like so many other people, have tried many different ways to do it. And there are so many different paths in society today that could be weight loss paths, many different pharmaceutical options, many different supplements that people take. Even the supplement industry for weight loss is billions of dollars. And many different types of gyms and workouts, and so many people shouting, everybody saying, like, this is the way, right? This is how you do it. And so here on this channel, I'm trying to be very grounded. I'm showing you a way, a tool. I am very encouraged about fasting. It's been a great benefit to my life. And I have helped hundreds, and I don't want to hype anything. I'm sure it's thousands of people, but I don't track it. I was tracking it the first couple years. And then once we start to hit hundreds and hundreds, it was impossible. And at least in me, to track it all. And then running the clinical study, I should put links to the study, but you can get it on simplefasting.com. Links in the Wisconsin Medical Journal. While I was at the university, did a fascinating study, bringing fasting to type 2 diabetes, helped to use it to replace medications. Probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in medicine. So this is what we're trying to do. Take these concepts and experiences, bring them into places and cycles where it has been difficult in this whole complex situation of people who, everybody shouting, everybody know the way, okay? Listen, let's just take the pressure off of the whole situation and think a little bit about it. Boulder that is here. Isn't this what is so interesting? One of the interesting things in this whole situation where we say, shouldn't it be easier than ever? If we got all the medications, all the technology, all the knowledge, and yet still here in this modern moment, doesn't it feel like it's more difficult than ever for many people to do it? Maybe that is your experience, to say, still we are sitting here in a space with difficulty. So all this I was trying to say, I'm picturing this boulder heading into the city. And one of the barriers, we can be discouraged by things that we have tried. We say, oh, I've tried this, and I have tried this, and we have tried this. And we can see from a certain point of view, can feel like we're accumulating failure. Have you ever felt that way? And we can feel bad about it. What I want to picture as we're looking at this staircase, oh, that's what I was trying to say. Maybe the boulder is so big. I was picturing, like in the story, they say, oh, a boulder is so big, it's like blocking the entrance to the city. I'm like, how big is this boulder, I don't know. Maybe there's a door. I don't know. It's a story. But I was picturing, okay, every time we are pushing on something like that, is it like a step on the staircase? And this is the way to reframe our past experiences. Don't feel bad about it. Realize we have had experiences in our life that can end up being sources of strength for us. And every experience that we've had is built up our knowledge. Just like the reps in the gym that are helping us to be stronger, is building up our strength so that we can lift the heavier thing, right? This is what our path has been. Whatever brought us here to this moment, Think of them like stairs. Maybe we're climbing over that boulder, you know? I don't know. Maybe we're like the peasant or got to get into the city. Maybe this boulder is so big, even the lever isn't moving it. But maybe we are building a staircase and heading over it. I like that idea. The obstacle becomes the way, I think, is a very, very powerful framework. Pat is with us. How are you doing this morning? Says, plateaus are my barriers. Yes, this I am sure, and I know that you are not alone in this. Plateau. Seems my body has adapted to fasting 16-8 or 18-6. Switched to eating twice a day, spaced apart. Seems to be slightly moving the scale. Hey, thank you for sharing your experience. So appreciate having you here on the channel and all your thoughts and reflections. Plateau space is can be a really difficult space to be in, and I want to help people reframe that experience. One of the videos I did, I think, and I chopped it up into a short too, that is just the idea of base camp, and I know that we have talked about that together. Climbing up a mountain and getting to base camp, and I don't know if we were to come up with a metaphor to talk about it, say base camp, you say, I've been here long enough, and then maybe we reframe it, and it can go from being frustrating, and then we settle in and it's okay, and is it frustrating again? So these things can be in a cycle with it. To really sink into the space. You know, it's interesting to be in this space. If we were sitting in person, of course, we maybe have a deeper discussion. It'd be easier to dive in really to the details of life and why things are the way they are. The thing that is coming to me right now about it is just to look at all four of our practices. And like today, like there's the saying I said the other day, you know it, like when you're a hammer, everything is a nail. And so like I'm sitting here and like fasting is not the only tool in the toolkit. And I say, okay, fasting is one tool. It's something that can augment all of the other practices. Is it the most powerful tool? Maybe, you know, it's all of our tools, which are choosing the healthiest unprocessed foods and dialing that in like the appropriate amounts that are right for our situation, our movement practices, how active are we throughout the day, not just on an exercise program, but how much movement are we getting, and then the mindset. These are all the things, and that mindset being specifically the journaling, the meditation, the breathing, like all of these things. Sometimes in a metabolic space, in a stuck space, oh, think of like picking a lock. You know how you pick a lock? You got to get in through all the spaces, hit the little trigger points in there so that the key can turn. And I really like unlock for a space in a plateau. To me, it's a puzzle. Frustrating as that can be. Say, okay, we are here. It is a puzzle. There is a solution to it. So there's something to think about. And do you believe that? That was the session yesterday. Step one is the belief, right? Because we are trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecy for ourselves. Gotta believe it. But then step two, we have to figure out what is the specific action that it is. Maybe fasting a part of that. Probably. But what part, and this is the balance to figure it out, and what part does it all play? Think you have like a lock-picking tool. It's like those little pins or whatever that go in. Maybe you got 4 of them going in. That's at least the type of pick that we are using on this process. The journal to me is like the decoder of the situation, to say, if when we open up a reflection space that is big enough, open enough, and the thought that you want to be coming into that space, like, where is the energy flowing? Like from the body. Body wants to solve this problem. I really believe it. Body doesn't want to be stuck in a plateau. Body wants to, everything in the body wants you to accomplish the goal that you have. We got the top layer, that cortical layer is like just what is synthesizing everything else. set that intention. And, I would ask personally the body a question like, hey, what do you need, to do this? Look at the goal. Look what we are trying to accomplish. We are in this space. Having grace for it, recognizing plateau better than what many people are experiencing, which is like anti-plateau. Like plateau never even happened, okay? Like making sure that we keep ourselves in a grounded space, recognizing that this is okay. Body can bring us into a space like that, though, to say, like, is the exercise, the path, are there spaces? Maybe some more detailed journaling, like food journal, to really dial in. What is coming in on this intake? Can it be changed? And then another one is just to say, like, I think that there can be a space to consider just total break on the fasting space. Like if you need a reset, nobody needs to feel like, oh, does it have to be like a forever thing? Can you lean harder on the other paths and give the body just a space on the fasting space? It's something I'm really thinking a lot about lately. Is what is the pattern to it that is optimal? But there are seasons to everything, seasons of things in the body, and the metabolism is dynamic. It does change and fluctuate. And I don't talk a lot about extended fasting on the our show here, whatever we call this, our sessions. Simple fasting, I say basically fasting within a day or for a day, just kind of shallow end of the pool. How much benefit can we get out of it? But in a plateau space, I feel like there can almost be two doors out of it. Certainly, an extended fasting period does offer the potential to break through a plateau. But it's not something I ever really recommend people to do. It's like a personal calling if someone is like really called to it, because it is like a very intense thing to do, and more risk comes in. And I'm a very risk adverse person. I try to say, let's figure out how much benefit we can get without doing that. And then, but there are scientific studies that have looked into it, and I've reviewed some of that, and it can help us to tease out fascinating physiology in the body too. One of the things that shows, to the best of my understanding, we read more and more studies on it, our metabolism can be slowed down. Standard dieting practices are a key way in our society that the metabolism gets slowed down, and fasting under some scenarios, especially short-term fasting, intermittent fasting, so-called, help us break out of that. But it's not forever. And I've been thinking about, okay, it's very clear in studies that I've read of long-term fasting, meaning extended fasting, going 10 days without eating, the metabolism will slow back down again. And this, of course, has many benefits for long-term survival. It's like we're trying to take the energy that we have within the body, make it last as long as possible so we can live as long as possible. Human being, a survival machine, can last a shockingly long amount of time. Okay, look at this pattern. We're eating little bits of food frequently, okay, but never fasting. Metabolism can slow down. That, you can imagine a version of a survival scenario where it's like food is running out, we're rationing it, trying to string it along. Body, as best I can tell in a scenario like that, is thinking, okay, little bits of food could be running out. Let's slow down the metabolism, string things as long as possible on this little bit of food, and then when the food completely runs out, then we will trip over and use the body fat. This is the thing that would help the food to last as long as possible, help us to survive as long as possible. But then the food runs out, okay, in the wild, all right, wild human beings in the past, all right, dangerous spots, like all the food is gone, got to get more food. Critical window, right? So what are the things that you're going to have to do, 10,000 years ago in order to get food again? You're going to have to hunt something. You're going to have to travel somewhere. You're going to be fishing, trying to spear something, digging stuff out of the ground. You're going to have to be working to get that food. And so the body, as best I can tell, out of a depressed metabolism, get into a fasting space, It's like open up the floodgates. Basically use the energy now is like the critical message is like get more food, okay? If that doesn't happen, right? You got to think now we're in a really rough time. Food is out, fasting space has happened. We didn't get more food, all right? Now the body's going to be like, oh man, we got to triage, right? I do wonder in the intermittent fasting space, and I've never seen a study about it. This is something that I really wish we could see. What I think would be a very fascinating study, and in the context of millions of people struggling with problems and multi-trillion-dollar health systems, like we should enroll and pay people to actually go through these scenarios so that we can watch it. And, you know, groups of people, we should have them go on standard diets. And these studies have been done. I've talked about that, where we can do basal metabolic monitoring and watch people's metabolism slow. I've never seen a study that has done that to people, right? Had people go through that experience and then flipped them onto fasting. Okay. I haven't, if anyone can find a study, I look for them. You got to piece it together from other studies. I'm piecing together this as much as we can. But I would like to see in the same people documenting what are they eating to actually see it and then see what happens. Because the unanswered question in my mind that I've really come to see is can intermittent amounts of fasting, meaning simple fasting like we are doing, in some people at some points, can it actually trigger some of that physiology? I honestly don't know the exact answer to that question, but I am increasingly wondering if it can. And, you know, different people report benefits from that, taking a break for a little bit on the fasting, leaning in on the diet and exercise harder for a season. And can that help with a plateau? Some people report that it can. My experience, I have experimented with this in my own practice with people who are interested in doing it, and results are mixed. I would say results are mixed with it. Results are mixed, you know, also, you know, in the space. So it's like, this is the fork where it's like, do we lean in harder on the fasting? I'm hearing that you're saying like, oh, maybe the energy wasn't quite there, trying to bring it back. See, I think that's very positive. Don't always have to crank things in one direction. When we're bringing things back, this is the thing that I'm thinking through too with you now. Don't feel arbitrarily like you say, oh, we can't go all the way back to 3. Like I think a lot of times people say, oh, I've cranked into 2, I've cranked it all the way to 1, maybe I've even done some alternate daily fasting. Like don't feel bad, like just to reset things here. But I have seen, this is the cautionary point, I definitely have seen people do that without counterbalancing it on the other parts of the path. And then, of course, you know, you can undo some progress that way too. So I like slow movements. I like changing things in a thoughtful sort of way. I like keeping an eye on things. Now, I'm kind of a data guy sometimes. I like keeping an eye on things. Other people not, you know, like that, you know. And so whatever feels like the energy is flowing right, I encourage you, that's the space to think about it. If you're not like a scale person, if you're not an Excel spreadsheet person, like it's okay. But like move back in a direction, and then if you're not like analytical like that, then you got to be more of like a feeling it, you know, which is totally good. Is the energy feeling good, you know? Can you switch in, take a break on the fasting space a bit, but leaning in, you know, really low carb, every processed thing out, you know, and leaning into the movement. We're just trying to create energy flows in the body, you know. And another thing to think about in that space, if we're leaning hard in on the food choice path, right? We're trying to balance out everybody, all of us getting some fasting space in a day, some eating space. Really, we're just trying, I am here trying to have a broader discussion about the fact that, okay, our society has arbitrarily said that like the fasting space can never go beyond 12 hours. Like as long as you're up, you got to be like eating basically. And I'm just like, no, let's just like open that up a bit. Right now I'm writing, I don't know, like 6 or 7 different talks. I haven't quite finished them all out. But one of the talks is, I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's basically, there is a well-documented medical phenomenon that is in fasting, that is, at least for some people, where fasting will trigger overcompensation of eating. And so I think this is one of the big barriers that fasting faces in medicine, especially as we get into talking with nutritionists about fasting. Nutritionists know all about this, especially people who are working. I've interacted with a lot of nutritionists who are working in eating disorder clinic, right? So people struggling with binge eating sometimes do have to eat more frequently. It's like you space it out, and it can be one of the triggers that cause people to eat more. Now, in literature, not to dive too deep, let me know if people want to dive deeper into it. Anybody who is not trained in fasting, who is confronted with a fasting interval, especially if it's unplanned, but even if it's planned, will eat on average 20% more at the next meal that they have than they would have if they had eaten the other meal. So there is this fasting propensity toward a fasting-induced compensation, but it's not, 100%. It's like a little bit in most people. And so sometimes, this is more reflecting on a plateau. Sometimes I've worked with people and say, okay, I've worked all the way up to OMAD. I'm having 1 meal a day. I lost some weight, but now there is a plateau. And they're like, no, I'm not eating anything in this space. I'm trying to get active. Like, what is happening? Sometimes I dive in. I'm like, what is actually happening at this meal? And sometimes it turns out that meal is really big. People eating, over 2,000 calories in 1 meal. And this is something that I don't think is a positive or helpful thing to do. People basically taken 3 meals worth of food in their OMAD and pushed it all into like one space. And so that's something that I just want to highlight. Maybe we do a whole talk on it. Is just to recognize, okay, when we're in a space balancing fasting and eating, okay, fasting, we're taking something that we would be eating, we're not eating it anymore. This is the big idea in our space. And in medical literature, different spaces, people define this differently. There's a real gray area to me when we're looking at time-restricted eating, specifically, which we say is just having eating windows, and then what I would call actual fasting. And some people use these things interchangeably. I don't know about it. I think, and by I don't know, I mean I just kind of think that we shouldn't do it. I think time-restricted eating needs to be more fully separated from what fasting is, because most of the clinical studies that I've looked at that are just specifically time-restricted eating, many of them are called like isocaloric, meaning like same calories. Like we put the same amount of calories in a tighter window. Maybe we eat 3 meals between 10 and 4. It's like we're putting bonus meals, and so we're getting the same calories. Like there's another common criticism of fasting. People say, well, fasting is just a process to help you eat less calories. And since it's hard, why would you ever do it when you could just eat fewer calories and get the same results? And what I would say to that, I don't argue too hard about that. I think it really is a strategy to eat fewer calories. And if that's all it is, I would still be just as excited about it, because it isn't exactly easy to eat less calories. And many people, at least for the right people, using fasting as a way to eat fewer calories is a very helpful tool in the toolkit, absolutely. But there is more to it, and the hormones are complex, and fasting space does offer the opportunity to get into some hormone-altering space. I think a big thing is that my best interpretation of the data and the experience is just that these can be effects that are harder to capture within a couple weeks of a clinical study. And I think we're not really defining things and practicing the way things really should be done. When a lot of studies are studying fasting, but people aren't getting less calories, then we're not really studying the thing that I think it is. And so this is the sort of space to dive into with it then, is to realize, okay, fasting time is important, eating windows are important, but it doesn't mean that calories don't have any meaning. And so the portions would be another factor to look into. Like, if we take the standard view of it and we say, okay, calorie is all that matters and fasting is something that helps you eat less calories, well, like, let's just make sure we're actually getting less calories too, because if we are opening up the fasting space but putting all those calories into there, it can still make a difference, but it is certainly not as powerful an intervention as if we, take those meals away and then keep the other ones static, In my view, if somebody is eating, like before we started a weight loss process, we were eating 1,800 calories a day, and we say, you think maybe is that 6, and then 6 at lunch and 6 at dinner, or maybe it's skewed and it's like, 4 and 6 and 8 or something like that. We think, okay, now we're taking out the breakfast. We don't want to just plug those calories into dinner. Like, we do want the calorie deficit. Still, that is what is getting into more of a pure fasting space to me. It's like the windows are opening up, the total calories are less, the content of the meals is really dialed in. And you say, well, there is the challenge, right? Here is the challenge. And like I was saying about some of this complex physiology is getting deep into our emotional, mental space, especially. It's like you can see the propensity. I can feel it. I've done that. Sometimes I've done big fasting. We say, okay, and we want to ease into it, but then it can be hard. And I've had times where I've overeaten after fasting. And that is something that needs to be acknowledged and practiced, just like getting into it. Getting into a fasting, it's a challenge, and getting out of fasting, its own challenge. And maybe they're equally important, because we don't want to undo the benefits of what we have done by getting into a very thoughtful fasting space and then undo it by overeating later. And if you're struggling with something like that, then that is another space where you say, let's just bring back the intensity of it. And this is what I want to do in this talk that I'm writing, is like there's kind of like a lot of force always to be hitting things harder and harder and always ratcheting things up. And I think there really can be a lot of benefit from just, on a ratchet. Have you used a ratchet where you can hit that little thing? It's like where the ratchet ever gets stuck on a bolt. It's like, just take the pressure off. Do that release, go the other way. Take the pressure off. Everything about my process for fasting, I want to be about using it as a tool to take pressure off, never creating its own pressure. Everything about it should be a wellness practice that feels like a flow state, and using it to help that experience flow into the other areas of life, like our meal prep and our exercise and every other good thing. To me, every facet of our being and health, we can put them in these arbitrary containers, but really it's just one holistic experience. Got to bring it all into balance. So you say, okay, here's something maybe I haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about on the channel, but portion control, portion sizing. To me, this is taking us especially into a mindfulness space, because you say, can be very difficult, right? And I think this illustrates one of the key benefits actually of fasting, but it's just, it's bringing it all into a focus. We were discussing, this perspective on fasting. Say, why would I practice fasting if a big part of it is just getting less calories? It's like, it's very hard to eat less when you're eating all the time, because when we're eating, we want to eat like a nice satisfying portion, you know. Body is designed, all the hormones designed to process a meal. Think about the size of the stomach. It's like perfectly sized for like the size of meal that is, you know, the system is designed to operate off of. And so it's like we eat a little bit of food, we have to turn the digestive system on. It takes 20 minutes to crank up, you know, all the acid pumps and hormones and all these things. It's like doing that for like 50 calories, you know, we just have a snack. It's like now the system is turned on and it's like, where's the rest? And then it can set up these cycles of hunger. One of the big benefits of a fasting space is like we start to program the system. Say, actually, we are just someone who eats at this time and this time. And that can take a few days to even a couple weeks to really dial in. That's one of the benefits of staying in a routine. And that's another thing to be mindful of. If we're shifting around these things, say, are we leaning back on fasting a bit? Just recognize, okay, now we're kind of communicating to the body. Maybe we're eating a little more frequently. Maybe that's good for a season, and it is. But just recognize, like we were saying the other day, shifting gears, going to shift back into that space, fasting. If we're shifting out of it for a while, just recognize, take a little bit to shift back into it. But this process is showing us, okay, if we can see eating 6 small meals throughout the day, here's like a standard dieting thing. We're trying to take our calories from 2,000 all the way down to 1,400 by breaking up into 7 tiny little segments. Like, have you ever done anything like that? It's like a little shake, a little bar, a little thing. Like, how satisfying is that? You know, most people are missing the meals pretty quick. And so if we take that idea, you eat one Pringles chip, probability just went way up that you're going to eat the whole stack, right? I know it is for me. I know it is. But you eat 0 of it, you flow through it. Okay, now we get to the meal. And it's like the same sort of physiology as the snack, but bigger. It's like now the food's really good. Now we spent, and now there's like a lot of it. And it's a meal and it's okay to eat. Like, how do we bring that into the most thoughtful space? To me, mindfulness. You say, okay, but I'm hungry now. Now I'm really hungry. Now how do we dial into this space? Especially if you're struggling with it. If you're not struggling with it, right? If everything is working well, no problem. Okay, but you say, here's the obstacle. I get to the meal when I'm eating now, and I'm very hungry, and I'm experiencing this, and then it's hard not to take it beyond the spot where it is serving the process. I think that's the spot. Here we are in this session. I made this silly picture thanks to an AI tool where I put a pile of gold coins in the hand, okay? Think about how valuable is it to gain control. I want people to have total control over food. I do not want people to be controlled by food and the emotional experience of eating and these sort of things. To me, that is more valuable than a fistful of gold, because this is the process that is actually leading us toward health. And isn't health more valuable than money, right? If we don't have our health, wouldn't we spend just about everything we could possibly have? Say, get it back. Health's something we really take for granted till we're not experiencing the level of it that we want. And then we say we would pay money for it. And many ways to do that for certain things in healthcare, but here in the metabolism, metabolic space, can't buy a metabolism, you know? Metabolism is something that you have to do. Metabolism is actually the doing of the body. It's just the collection of the running of all the energy systems. And so our unlocking process, figuring out how do we do this life, this experience in a way that helps the energy to flow around through the barrier, say, move the barrier out, find the hidden treasure, okay? Maybe that treasure is really getting into this exact space. How do we control this experience? How do we bring it under control? At least more under control. Getting to a space, let's say it's a struggle, the portion control is what we're trying to dial in on right here in this session. How do we do it? Mindfulness, I say, is the key to it. There's really leaning in on that fourth path, our mindset, journaling about it specifically, setting the intention to it. Realize here, okay, look at the journey we've gone on through this session to get to these thoughts where we say, okay, give space, listen to the body. What are we trying to accomplish? Set the intention. Maybe this is a spot where we've come to. Maybe you are seeing like, oh, I could be more mindful. This is where we could dial in. Recruiting everything in our being to help us with this. Using every tool and resource that we have. So maybe that means starting out ahead of dinner with our goal. What is my goal on this meal in this session? What would be an ideal amount that I want to eat? And how can I help that to be both satisfying, and how can I be satisfied with that? As we're starting to bring mindfulness to it ahead of time, it's like we're preparing ourselves for it. Maybe we picture ourselves eating it and we see the experience. Say, here is an amount of food that is reasonable for what I'm trying to do. Maybe it's around 600 calories. It'd be ideal, plus or minus, depending on the meal or the experience. Probably not 2,400, right? We're not trying to blow it out. Probably not even 1,200 if we're really trying to go on a weight loss process. Say some tasty, satisfying portion of food, and then bring every mindfulness practice into it. Use all of our senses to eat it, right? Slow it down. The sensors, we have sensors is what think of taste. We don't think of, this is making it sound kind of robotic, but taste is like a sensor if this was a mechanical system. It's communicating information to the body, and we have sensors like this throughout the digestive system, all the way into the small bowel even, telling us what food is where and how is the body processing it. And it takes time for all of these things to work. And so when we slow down, we increase the amount of space that the nutrients we're bringing into our body, that they can be hitting the sensors, that we can be tasting and smelling and experiencing and feeling the food coming in, is telling the body the energy is here, we're hitting the satiety hormones. And if you eat the same amount of food more slowly versus the same amount faster, you know what the experience is going to be. Where are you going to be more satisfied when you finish it, right? When you slow down, you give the body the experience to get into that space. So do that. See the food coming in. This is the sort of thing I think when we are shutting the screens off at meal times, highly recommended. Turn every distraction off. And actually look at the food. None of this, right? Like when we're watching a show and the food is coming in, that's like a big cue to the body. Think of the sensors here. Actually seeing the food come into the body. This can make a huge difference to actually see it coming in. Now the body's like really knowing in like another way, not just tasting it, but like seeing it coming in. Body's getting the message. Hey, energy's coming in. We're going to be satisfied here. Things are going to be okay. Hearing, right? Just spending. Some people, I know I talk to people, they hate the sound of chewing, okay? But it's like, if it's your thing, But like hearing it, like, oh man, I was like, this hearing or swallowing it, man, this is really coming in. All of these are sending information to the body about how much food is coming in here. So as I'm thinking through this, okay, one of the things I love about fasting, a way to eat less without having to dial in and say calories and portion control and dial so in on it. And I say that's really good as long as everything is working. Here we're in a very specific subset of the experience, right? Working through a plateau. Maybe if we have flowed through this whole experience, maybe this is the place where it's time to bring some of that back too, to be a little more analytical on the portions exactly. How many calories really are coming in here? If we really think about it, if the fasting space not flowing through it, like, because a calorie is real, and what if it comes out that's like, yeah, we're getting fasting space, but look, the calorie is still pretty high. Like, is it reasonable to expect dramatic results from a fasting if the total calories aren't reduced. I'll just tell you, this is more subtle. Take a lot longer to get there. And so if we're trying to dial in the intensity, pay a mind to total portions. So there would be, oh man, I'm looking at the clock. We spent a lot of time flowing through that space. Maybe there is a way that I could have gotten through that thinking shorter than that. I was intentionally, in my mind, I was trying to be concise, but didn't quite happen, I guess. What other barriers? Are there other barriers? I'm happy to do more thinking. This is what I like doing, problem-solving space. I just give you my reflections on these things. For what it's worth, as much as we can do in a space like this, where it's like we're not really sitting face-to-face and really digging into it, but send me your thoughts, and I do as much thinking about it. And if you are here on the replay and you are having other barriers, you like some more thinking, throw some comments, share your experience. We can do more sessions on any specific barrier in a future world. I would love to have a video on every sort of barrier that was effective and helpful so that we could build up all of these resources. One of the videos that I am thinking either is, should I make a video? I just love the lives. If I make it a video or a live, just one of our sessions. Somebody asked me the other day, I was talking with a doctor, what do you think is the biggest myth in the weight loss space? So I was like, well, this is a very thoughtful, thought-provoking question. And so I sat around and thought about it for a little bit. And what I came up with, I'd be happy to hear your perspective. Let me know what you think. What I came up with is that this is easy, I think is the biggest myth. As I was thinking about it, everybody, think of the multi-billion-dollar, many multi-billion-dollar weight loss industry. Isn't the entire thing, isn't the marketing for all of it just that this is easy? Do my path and it's easy on everything. You can watch the happy people dancing around, on the commercials, easy street, right? And everything is easy. Just the supplement, it's the missing, everybody's got the missing thing. It's like, oh, you didn't know it this whole time. You could have just taken my supplement. Order now, 3 easy payments of $19.95. Easy. But really, there's just nothing really like that. And the thing, I don't know, maybe do I do some of that? You let me know, honestly. Do I do some of that, and how would I not do it? The thing that I try to balance, fasting, of all things, of all weight loss paths, I think is the thing that is most feared in society. It's the thing that out of all paths, people would say is the hardest, or the thing that everybody does not want to do the most. I know that's how I felt about it the first time I heard about it. I met the wonderful Hindu woman who was just fasting all the time. That was my first gut reaction. I was like, well, I don't want to do that. Oh, man. And look at me now. But what a blessing it is. And so I think that's why I'm drawn to this book. The Obstacle is the Way. I really do like it, to bring it back to where we started. Can the obstacle ultimately become a great source of strength? That's what this book is about, and that's what fasting is to me. To me, like the metaphor of it is not even a metaphor, really. It's just totally, it is the way. Body fat is here to serve us. It is part of us. It is energy. And the body does know it is there. And so unlocking it, okay, there is a path to do it. Fasting space is one of those paths. Here we have done some deep thinking, and more deep thinking deserving of it, about whether we have one constant plan all the time. I've definitely seen people who lean in even on 2 meals a day and they just flow through it for years and years and they don't hit so much of a plateau. But then I've seen people even harder in OMAD and beyond who's like do experience that for times. My experience with fasting over a multi-year period of time is people who are leaning into a process of fasting at least 16 hours, maybe longer, maybe some OMAD, who flow into a plateau space, who stick with it, it usually resolves to the downside. Usually I've seen definitely people flow through a space for longer than you would want, and we work through it. And then I've seen finally the unlock happens. And of course, we want to do every bit of optimization to minimize the amount of time that people have to spend in a space like that. But I think part of it too is I think what is happening right here is a process. When we see a static number and it's not changing, we're very numbers focused. We want the number to be changing. Many things can be happening under a surface in the body and the mind. A process is happening. What that process is can be different for different people. Whether that's actually a metabolic process, whether it's an emotional process, whether it's just a period of time of learning. Think of beautiful butterfly, right? Think of the time in the cocoon. That's the other metaphor that I really like. Base camp can be a really helpful metaphor. The other one is the cocoon, right? I tend to think that the experience of the caterpillar in the cocoon, probably not very pleasant, wings busting out and all this stuff. Might be very difficult, painful type of experience. Not very many people have just innate patience of a saint, only a few, right? And then they become like the saintly ones with the patience. The rest of us got to work through processes to help and support and give ourselves every bit of grace and compassion and tools and support to make up for our lack of patience. Absolutely. But this is what this process is. This is fasting space to me, right? And this is why I decided to put it every weekday. To say we're just working the process, working the problem, try to keep learning and doing the thinking and sharpening the edge, right? If we're trying to cut into a difficult space, sharpen the edge. And, I would say I feel like the journey with it so far, I feel like is doing that. I don't know that I have any really great skill in see, it's not a pushing. I was going to say can't push someone through it. I have a lot more language tools now by doing this process than I did 2 years ago, which I'm very happy about. More ways of thinking to help us navigate this issue. To me, I think this type of issue, navigating a metabolic space, not running away from the very difficult spaces of it. I've especially like leaning into this thing, like we're saying with the myth. What is the biggest myth in weight loss today? That it's easy. Everybody who is trying to sell everybody something is trying to do it by telling people my way is the easy way. And I am trying to be in a space where I'm not trying to sell really much of anything. I sell some consulting time. If you're in Wisconsin, you want to chat in person, I would love to connect. I have my Dr. Z method. If you have type 2 diabetes, definitely check that out. If you know friends or family who have type 2 diabetes, you can access Dr. Z method anywhere in the world. My personal consulting is primarily just in Wisconsin, but Dr. Z method is everywhere. It's awesome, and we can connect on there anywhere. Really, really helping people in that space. But I'm not trying to use a marketing to tell anybody that it's easy. In my view, the thing I've been thinking also, okay, it's not like my marketing is radically successful either. Sometimes I kind of sit around and laugh at myself and say, like, what do you expect? You sit here and say, hey, come lose weight with Dr. Z. It's going to be difficult. It's not the vibe that I'm trying to set up. The vibe that I just want is reality. Right? I try to make everybody's experience, especially you come work with me in person, I try to help you have the most thoughtful, pleasant, enjoyable experience possible. I want it to feel like openness and joy and positivity. Okay, that's the goal. Minimize every bit of struggle, but never anything other than reality, right? Nothing sugar-coated, nothing exaggerated or hyped. And the reality is that a weight loss process by any path is a fairly long and difficult process, right? Even you say, I'm going to try to take a shortcut. I'm going to go get a lipo at a plastics clinic. You say, okay, also difficult. Okay, also painful. So, and not necessarily sustainable, you know. Choose the hard. And from my perspective, what I've come to, you know, how long have I been in medicine since I went to medical school? It was year 21, I think it must be. The thing that people fear the most actually may be one of the easiest paths in the long term, to just accept, to recognize the deep physiology of the body. Fasting is here, been practiced for thousands of years. People say, well, fasting is a fad, you know? It's like maybe fasting in certain small niche areas on YouTube. Okay, there's fasting videos, millions of views. Okay, people have written 1,000 books on fasting. That's fine. But when you look at the impact on society, minimal, you know? It's like, it's been in its own little area. But then so you zoom back, you say people have been practicing fasting for thousands of years. You can go back and read Hippocrates. And he's talking about the healing potential properties of fasting. People have recognized the value in this for so long. I was having coffee with a friend the other day, and they were talking about, I don't want to be too denigrating to myself and certainly every beautiful person who is with me. I just love that we're here together in this space. Small is beautiful. That's what I say. I really do believe it. Things don't have to be big. We're sitting here in this crazy moment of industrial culture and AI systems and just everything kind of like intense and edited. And, you know, I really feel good about sitting here, have a coffee, chill little space, a few people. It's like friends sitting around in a coffee shop. This is just kind of like the vibe I want. Doesn't have to be any bigger thing. But my friend thought it did. And they're like, it's kind of sad that you are spending all this time doing, you know, your show and like not too many people watching. I'm like, hey, it's like totally cool. They're like, you really missed the fad. Like you should have been doing this, you know, 5 or 8 years ago, like when you were launching the study. You should have launched a YouTube channel instead of doing the study. They were telling me all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know. 8 years ago, I did not see myself as like a YouTuber. I was like a doctor, you know, in a clinic. Like it's just not, you know, what you did. And some people did it. It just wasn't on the mind. And the thing I was thinking in that conversation is like, you can't really miss it, you know? Like fasting is a process that has been part of culture for thousands of years. You can't miss it. It hasn't gone anywhere. Like just because we were in some sort of space where like some people connected with it in a certain media format for a while, like that's no big deal. Like I don't have any regrets about it. Sometimes I did have some regrets. The more I think about it, I did think about it for a while. I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to like, you know, I'd watch some of these big people back, you know, 2016. I watched Dr. Fung giving talks. I was like, maybe I should do talks. I'm giving talks. Like, why don't I put them online? I don't know. Too busy. I didn't have very much space in my own life to really sit and reflect. I was just kind of do. Couldn't could never say no, right? Here, fasting has shown me a lot. It's okay to say no to things for a while. It's like I was very, very busy. Okay, I was running a hospital ward at an academic medical center for medical students and residents, medical director in my clinic, start a research program, running a huge primary care practice. Sometimes because I was so crazy, I would moonlight overnight. I'd work in the clinic. I'd go work. Why did I do that? Oh man. The more things I started saying no to, the more I realize there's more potential. We can, things are okay. Don't have to be striving. Why was I striving so hard for things I already had? Have you ever had an experience like that? Just actually just opening up the space and sitting. Everything that we seek, maybe we already have it. Dr. Z Coffee Hour, new set design. Hey, I like the thought. I really do like the thought. I've thought a little bit about I'm leasing, an office space in Fitchburg. It's only about 12 minutes from my house, where I'm meeting in person for simple fasting consults now. My house, just to really get into it, I live on a very awkward block. It's a triangle block in the middle of all these things. And so it's very strange. And one of the oddities of it, every single house around the outside of the triangle block has fiber internet, but our little triangle block does not. And I've talked with all the people. Nobody's going to be putting it in. For many tens of thousands of dollars, we could all come together and privately do it, but nobody going to shell out huge bucks to tunnel and buy our own fiber internet. And so I'm here with this cable connection that I'm paying for the max, level on, but it's extremely unreliable. I've been late, which I haven't really been late, the last couple shows, on time today. But when I'm late, I'm sitting in my basement trying to get all this stuff to connect. Very frustrating. So I've thought about, but the internet at the office space I'm leasing is extremely fast. It's 20 times faster than my home internet. I was like, I should move the show to the office, but then I got to get up and, another earlier and earlier and get to the office and set it all up there. I don't know, I might do it, but then I was like, but I could get a new set and I wouldn't be so limited in my bandwidth. I could multi-stream. I could add, a feed to Facebook and X, and I could, things that big channels do. And I'm like, I don't know. So far, I haven't done it. But I do like the idea. Dr. Z Coffee Hour, that is kind of a vibe that I want for this session to be. It is kind of the vibe. I do like this look, this set. I don't know what people think of it. I like the vibe. Blue, my favorite color. I'll tell you, blue is my favorite color. And so I like bringing in the blue. To me, it's like either sky. Some of these ideas to me is like the sunrise on a beautiful morning is happening here with the blue and then the golden light coming up. And sometimes I think it's like sand on the beach because also I love sitting by the ocean, and to me this might be a sandy beach, some beautiful beach vacation. And either one of those things is like a calm and peaceful vibe, which is the vibe that I want to bring to a fasting space. Fasting space, I want to be the type of thing that is taking pressure away from people. It's like less to do, less meals, less shopping, less cooking and cleaning and everything, okay? And everything like that I just said that is less to do in the external world, it's also less to do for the body inside. Less digestion, less hormones and acids and all this sort of stuff. It's like just taking the pressure off. Calm everything down, flow through a space, more space in our life, like I was saying when I was so strung out in my medical practice before I learned to set boundaries and say no to things so that we could say no to some good things to open up some space for some better things. Some of those better things actually just mental health, peace, and contentment in the mind. Whoa, do we need some of that? Same thing happens in the body. More space in the body, give the body a break. All of a sudden, immune system doesn't have so much work to do protecting us from foodborne illness. All of a sudden, the lining of the digestive system has some space to rebuild itself from all the food processing. All of a sudden, the pancreas can take a break. Don't have to be squeezing out the insulin, and the liver gets a break. Everything gets a break. Love it. Fasting, my favorite concept I've come across in medicine. So many good things and different strokes for different folks. You know, there was a point in time early on, you know, toward the end of medical school, I thought I was going to be an oncologist. I had my entire life geared up to becoming an oncologist, actually. In the whole first year of my residency, I had time in oncology clinics, and I spent much bonus time on oncology wards. And sometimes I think, oh, what would life have been like to have done that, Dr. Z, oncologist? But I feel really good about it. And one of the reasons that I decided not to do that is I said, I want to really explore the thought of how do we make oncology as minimally necessary as possible? And isn't it the case that if we help people to be as healthy as possible, that we will ultimately minimize the number of people who ever have to see an oncologist? And I think that is certainly true, and I have had value from that. Another one of the talks I'm working on, a talk on potential of fasting and fasting-based process to mitigate at least some amount of cancers. I haven't given the talk, I haven't talked about it because I'm reading, you know, all of the research on it. I'm trying to literally read like all of the research that I can find on it and really think deeply about it. And it's another sort of thing. I've also watched a fair number of YouTube videos on the space, and I don't really like the videos that are out there because just like so many things, you know, there's a lot of hype to it, and I think this is a space that is especially in need of reality-based anti-hype talk, and I don't know if that's the type of thing that very many people ever watch. We'll see, but also the research, I think, is very poor. This is my assessment of it. The bench research is very interesting to just give you. I'll give you the current state of my thinking on it for what it's worth. There's a lot of fascinating bench research and animal model studies that show in the fasting space what happens when the immune system can stop all of its work on food processing and start doing other things. One of the things that it can do is go into cancer seek and destroy mode. Natural killer cells and other things, okay, can start combing through tissues and looking for anomalous structures. So many things coming together in a fasting space. As cells flip over in a fasting space that can activate DNA repair enzymes. Here's an incredible thing. Cancer is caused by mutations in our genetic code, and in a fasting space, we have mechanisms in place to help us mitigate that. Fascinating. Doesn't that just tell you this is something the body wants to be happening? A whole nother area that has been looked at, physiology in the tumors. Tumors are things that have escaped. They have deviated from all of the natural control mechanisms. Like they do not stay in balance. They are energy hungry. They're sucking up energy, and especially glucose, something called the Warburg effect. So like they will suck up the energy. Well, the system is wasting away, is what's happening in cancer. Okay, all of a sudden, it's like our cells, normally dual fuel system, they can run off of body fat. Cancer cell loses that ability. They're very glucose dependent. All of a sudden you start opening up a fasting space. Processed food is gone. You are putting a cancer cell at a radical disadvantage. And so this is physiology in the body called Warburg effect, very well studied. The part of it that is not well studied is translating that into actual efficacy in people. And there are some studies that have looked at it in a way that I don't really like. But I would like to bring you a talk on it. Cancer is been the, probably, I don't know what has been the worst part of, being a doctor, but telling people that they have cancer probably takes the cake, I think. I just hate it. And I think that, in this sort of space where we are at right now, biggest obstacle, is it a strength? This is where we started, and here I'm just doing some free-form thinking, I guess, at the end. There's a giant obstacle to health, right? That's like a boulder. I don't know. Maybe our analogy breaks down with something like cancer, But, I don't know. In the big picture, we need a lot of thinking on it. I was driving over from Madison to Milwaukee the other day. Giant billboard on the highway for a Milwaukee-based hospital cancer center. And what exactly were the words? It said something like, was it doing whatever it takes? Or whatever it takes until every cancer is prevented. It was something like that. They might have had a little more poetic word for it. But I was thinking about the research and the physiology into these ways that fasting interacts with this process. And I was thinking, like, does whatever it takes to stop cancers, would it include fasting if it was conclusively shown in some broader studies than we have now? Right now we're in kind of like a very early stage with it, I think. Like, would that be enough to shift like some big thinking in the medical system to really start appreciating fasting on a deeper level? My feeling personally is that fasting should have like a very prominent base level role in the medical system. And right now it's kind of like floating out somewhere in kind of a niche sort of thing. And people have a lot more connection with fasting on YouTube than they do with the medical system in general, is my experience. And I don't think it should be that way. Yeah, we're in a very, a very interesting situation, in the healthcare system, in medicine. Whatever it takes, that makes money. That's the caveat. And I don't know, I have this whole collection of talks throughout our talk today. I've talked all different talks. I'm like writing and working on it. I have a couple different talks that I've been kind of writing about, about GLP-1s, because, we're sitting here in this weight loss space, and like GLP-1s, like the 800-pound gorilla sitting in the room, because, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, become like the sun, the star. Everything is orbiting around it. And I think a big part of that is just the money of it is so unbelievable when you dive into it. So much money. And I have just complex feelings about it, I think on the channel I could make, I'm pretty sure I could make some videos that would like do better on my channel by creating some controversial sort of content around GLP-1s, because so many people searching for it. I'm not even opposed to making a controversial thing, but I'm not opposed to medicine. Like, I'm opposed, like this comment, like, I wish everything in medicine did not get boiled down to money and all the finances, and I wish that there wasn't the, money is a tool. Money is good in healthcare, and don't you want there to be huge amounts of resources in medicine? And you think, I've said a lot, you don't find an MRI scanner out in the woods, and I want, there to be incredible cutting-edge chemotherapies that help everybody with everything. And so huge benefits to the medical system. But then you get in a comment like this, where it's like, especially in our chronic disease state, I feel like the money is warping things in a way. But then it's not all good or bad, and I think this is where we can have to just navigate a space. People can be helped by these products, and also they have their downsides. These are harder spaces to navigate. I think if everything was black and white and cut and dry, it would be easier in a lot of ways. I think, like you're saying, thank you for that. I think this is what I would really like to see. This is a big thing that I want to do. I certainly try to do in my own practice. I've prescribed thousands of GLP-1s to people. I never would have done it if I didn't think that it could help people and if it wasn't maybe the right thing to do. And but also I stopped doing it because I increasingly wanted at least to do what I could to push the envelope the other way. I think these things do have their place, but like you've got to know about the food and the fasting and the movement and the mindfulness. It's not just a medication. To me, a medication, if it has the most value, it would be as a tool to help you get into a space to be able to do these other things. And a medication going to work so much better when you put it in a context of all these other good things. And so, I could envision, videos to say, it's like, oh, the fasting alternative to GLP-1. I started writing that talk. I do want to give that talk because, in the midst of all the money, like we're talking in medicine, people get lost. The people who get lost in that whole equation are people who either can't afford these medicines or who don't want to take them, or who have medical contraindications to them, or who have had bad reactions to them. And, the commercials and the whole zeitgeist of the situation want to make everybody think that that everything is just perfect and that the number of people in this situation is very small. But it just, in my observation, personally, I think it's pretty high. It's more like in the realm of 20 to 30%, which is a pretty big slice of people. And as like I was saying, we're all orbiting this massive star, the phenomenon of these medicines. Like let's just recognize that there's this other side of it too, and we should not forget about people who can't take them. Some of the worst experiences I've had too, I gave GLP-1 to 2 people on 2 occasions out of thousands. Okay, look, everything balance is not likely, but it does happen when you're running a huge medical practice and giving these things to so many people. Rare events will happen, and but 2 people that I gave it to ended up in the ICU with severe pancreatitis. One of them almost died, and it was just a horrible, horrible thing. To me, medicine always a risk-benefit analysis, and you get into some complex ethical, moral decision-making, like how much benefit is worth some amount of harm coming to people. And to me, I started to feel like first do no harm. I did the talk the other month, Minimalism in Medicine. To me, minimalism really needs a bigger place in medicine. Fasting, to me, minimalism in the body. First do no harm is like a core foundational guiding light for me, and this is how I ended up at Fasting Space as the place to really lean into. I was a big weight loss medicine prescriber, and I leaned very much into it because, this is the way according to the system. And I said, you know what, let's lean back a little bit on this because I don't ever want to, it's not like I directly hurt someone. It's like, not like, say, Dr. Z did not intentionally give this person pancreatitis by prescribing them a GLP-1, but it still happened, I was still involved in it. And I never want that to happen again. And so I say from a principle, first do no harm. That's why I'm sitting in this space now. How do we get way upstream? Like there's things. How do we look at the evidence rationally, get way upstream of as many cancers as possible? I'm never going to hype anything and say, oh, we just do some fasting. Nobody going to get cancer. It's not like that. Like the effects of these things, are saying, how do we influence it, shape it, give ourselves the best probability? I've been reading a lot of, studies. Right now, the study I just read last week, it's like cancer rates going way up in the 30, 40, 50 demographic. That's where I am. And I'm like, oh man, why is that? And people have a lot of theories. Some people call it birth cohort effect. That's what a lot of people think is most likely. That people being exposed during developmental years in the past is something that has caused lasting, perhaps genetic damage as a birth cohort effect. Is why older generations not being affected the same way younger generations are. Okay, so this is like big issues here. This is why, if you are aware, colon cancer screening recommendations have been shifted down from 50 to 45, right? Because we're trying to pick up more of these early aggressive colon cancers in younger people. And it's just interesting, the cancers, colon cancer especially, also reproductive cancers, thyroid cancer in younger people. So it's interesting in this space where we are in. Also look at what has been happening in society. The metabolic dysfunction that is coming, are these having bigger effects on people than have been appreciated? Did older generations were not exposed through key portions of their life to so many of the things, including the pollution and the PFAS and the microplastics and just on and on. And then the genetically modified food and the glyphosate and who even knows? Like all of the things that are going on is really there. So to me, fasting space, one small space where we can push back against it. Say at least for a period of time, we are cordoning off this space. And we are protecting the body, at least here. And if there is a space that is in the body that is about cleansing and getting rid of things, okay, fasting can help to do some detoxifying in the body. I can't prove that it's going to have an impact, but for my own personal life and self, seems like the type of thing we might want to start getting out ahead of a curve, and utilizing to help people mitigate some of this as much as possible. Just do whatever we can do. Have you seen that meme that's Homer Simpson where he's like standing there and then he kind of shrinks back into the bush, and it's like he's saying something like, and then people put memes over it like, man, this is like the worst day ever. And he's like, oh, it's the worst day so far. There's a saying in medicine that I've had, things could always be worse. A little dark, but it basically is true. Things can always be worse in the short term. So I do think about that. What has driven this experience that we're having of rising cancers in young people? And actually, is this the tip of the iceberg, actually? Is what we're seeing just the beginnings? Not that we're not necessarily at the peak bad. Like things might be getting much worse. And do we actually need to be way more thoughtful and proactive than we're currently being? I feel we do. I have a feeling. Maybe there is a space, not for or against, but just guidance to bridge the gap so new habits are built, and an exit strategy. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really love these thoughts. Exit strategy is the other talk. I said I was doing 2 talks, and I think that is really good. I've been making an exit strategy talk, and I think we'll have to do it. I do want to do it. I want to do all these talks. I must have listed 10 different talks that I have started. And we'll keep knocking them off. We'll knock them off the list. Plenty to talk about, plenty to think about, plenty to do. Feeling good to me right now. Appreciate you being here. Feeling nice just to sit here and let this session go a little bit. Do some broader thinking. I do my thinking that is like just for us specifically, ideas to think about, and I think more broadly, running a YouTube channel, how do you make it successful? I read a lot. I watch videos on people's perspectives. How do you have success with it? Everybody that I've been watching lately, you got to focus. You really got to drill down to your niche, You got to like hit the things. This is almost a year and a half ago now, I paid some money. I sat down with a marketing person to just talk about, the channel and these things. And they didn't like it, no surprise. And they said, you're all over the place, You don't have just a fasting focus for one thing, It's like you'll do a talk on the cold and fasting. They really were on that. They're like, that is so niche. That's like way over. I don't know. I like it. I find it interesting. And I personally think there is actually a lot of value in exploring a range of ways that fasting is intersecting with different parts of life. I personally think that has great value. Like, even if we are not specifically in a space where, say, I'm not dealing with a digestive health disorder right now, for example, having a fasting talk on digestive health, everybody's got a digestive system. Like, I still think there's a lot of value in that. Anyway, these are my thoughts of the day. Very special shout out to Pat. Thank you for the engagement here. Really nice to share this space with you. Thank you for everyone for being here. Love to hear your ongoing reflections on any of the topics we have discussed today. As you can see, I have many different talks and things that are going to be coming, and we will plug those in as I complete them into our other series that we're doing, stepping through thought-provoking and helpful books that are helping us to dial in our mindset, strengthen our resolve, renew our spirit, and I will look forward to continuing that journey with you. Have a great day, everybody.